Hello there, R.C.E. Kingston here, and today I'm doing my Genius R presentation on roller coasters. So, the thick question I had was what is the trend of the past Golden Ticket Award winners of Best Roller Coaster and what might be next? So, here's a little background information. The Golden Ticket Awards is run by Amusement Today, and the rides that are featured in the top 50 steel/wooden coasters list are voted in by roller coaster enthusiasts around the world on amusementtoday.com. Now, a little bit more background information is on the Coaster Wars. The Coaster Wars was a period of time from 1989 to 2005. Amusement parks were trying to have the tallest, fastest, longest, and roller coasters in the world. The ride that started the Coaster Wars was Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, which was the first roller coaster over 200 feet, and it was the tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster when it opened. And the ride that ended the Coaster Wars was King the Caw at Six Flags Great Adventure and Safari, which was only the second ever strata coaster in the world, which is a roller coaster over 400 feet, and it was the tallest and fastest roller coaster when it opened. Now, this is a sign that can be seen next to Magnum XL 200 entrance, and it states, in 1989, while Cedar Point crews were working hard building Magnum XL 200, the Game Boy was being released for the first time in Japan. Now, the top 2019 steel coasters was Fury 225, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, Superman the Ride, Expedition G-Force, Twisted Colossus, Iron Rattler, Apollo's Chariot, Leviathan, Nitro, Intimidator 305, Phantom's Revenge, Maverick, Diamondback, and Mako. Now, the companies that made them, there were 6 by B&M, 5 by Intamin, 3 by RMC, and 1 was by Morgan. The 2019 top wooden coasters was Phoenix, Voyage, El Toro, Boulder Dash, The Beast, Ghost Rider, Lightning Rod, Outlaw Run, Ravine Flyer 2, Mystic Timbers, Thunderhead, Gold Striker, Boulder, Lightning Racer, Shivering Timbers. The companies that made these were those 5 by DCI, 4 by CCI, 2 by Intamin, 2 by RMC, 2 by Gravity Group, 1 by PTC, and 1 was built by the park. Whenever I say built by the park, that means that the park that the ride was in designed, built, and manufactured the entire ride. Meaning a company did not build it. Now, what do all of these rides in the top 15 have in common? Well, most of them include airtime, high speeds, high G-forces, and fast transitions. 23 of the 50 top 50 steel coasters focus on airtime, and 27 of the top 50 wooden coasters focus on airtime. Now, what is airtime? Well, in a scientific term, airtime is negative G-forces. I'll get more into G-forces later on. But the way I would describe airtime is the floating sensation you get when cresting a hill. Whether that's floater or ejector. I'll get more into those later as well. Now we will take a ride on the top steel coaster for the past about 5 years, Fury 325, with a height of 325 feet, a drop of 320 feet, length 6,602 feet, speed 95 miles an hour, and a max vertical angle of 81 degrees. And this is a POV of Fury 325.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!
we're going to take a ride on the Phoenix, the number one wooden coaster in the world. This has a height of 78 feet, a drop of 72 feet, a length of 3,200 feet, a top speed of 45 miles an hour. Now, I'm quick fun fact with you about the Phoenix. Phoenix is actually one of the rare wooden roller coasters that was actually relocated, which means it was originally built at one park and then it was completely taken down and moved and built at another park. One of the only relocated wooden roller coasters. Now, one question that shows up a lot in the roller coaster community is, will we ever see a new world's longest roller coaster? Now, for me, it really depends on who's paying to build the ride. Say, for instance that Six Flags was wanting to build the ride. The chances are that the project will not make it through the planning stage without being canceled. And the one reason why parks have not made a new world's longest roller coaster is because of the price of steel. Over the past couple decades, the price of steel has been increasing steadily over time. And one of the best examples of this resides at Carowinds. Now, the comparison that I'm going to be making is between Fury 325, which has a height of 325 feet, speed of 95 miles an hour. You've heard it before just recently. And Copperhead Strike, with a length of 3,255 feet, a speed of 50 miles an hour, height of 82 feet, and a duration of 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Just based on the stats, you would imagine the Copperhead Strike would cost a lot less than Fury 325, since it's not even half the size of it. But if you thought that, you'd be gravely mistaken, because Fury costs about $16 million, give or take a few, and Copperhead Strike costs roughly $26 million, give or take a few. Meaning there was roughly a $10 million increase between 2015 and 2019. Now, when might we see the next massive Golden Ticket Award winner, and when might it open to the public? Now, for the steel coasters, all these are opening up in 2021, and the wooden coaster has been open for about 14 years now. But the fourth most likely to be the next world greatest is Conda at Walibi, Belgium. Third most likely, Iron Gwazi going to Busch Gardens, Tampa. Second most likely is Pantheon going to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. And to me, the most likely to be it is the Velocicoaster going to Islands of Adventure. And the wooden coaster I'm going to talk about is El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure and Safari. Now, this is Velocicoaster. It is manufactured by Intamin Amusement Rides, and is one of their Blitz models, which is basically their version of a launch coaster. These have usually very intense maneuvers, quick transitions, and lots of airtime and inversions. Now, Velocicoaster costs $26 million to build. That's counting the ride and the immense theming that Universal is doing. And I'm going to show you the promotional video for Velocicoaster. what records can I see being broken in the near future? So these are all records that are pretty easy to achieve, but are still really marketable to bring in the crowds. So the first record I'm going to talk about is the airtime record for most airtime on a roller coaster. Now, the ride that held this for a really long time was the Voyage at Holiday World. But just recently in 2018, Cedar Point opened Steel Vengeance, which opened with the most airtime on a roller coaster with 27.2 seconds of airtime. Which, airtime is an interesting one because there are so many different types of airtime. The two main ones that most roller coaster enthusiasts know is floater and ejector. But there's also flow ejector and lifter, and the list goes on and on. I'm just going to talk about those four main ones. So, lifter is basically a mix between ejector and floater, leaning more towards the ejector side. Flow ejector is basically stronger floater. It's like lifter. It's in between ejector and floater, but it's more towards the floater side. Floater airtime is what you typically see on your B&M Hypers. You don't know what that means, and I just realized that. A B&M Hyper, B&M the company, Hyper is any roller coaster over 200 feet, but under 299 feet. So those usually features lots of airtime hills and graceful airtime. Floater is basically a nice floating sensation where you feel like you're just kind of floating midair. Ejector you usually see on your R.C.E hybrids, all intimate roller coasters. An ejector is basically a violent whip. So it lives up to its name. It's basically where the ride tries to eject you from the train. But it can't do that because of the lap bar, giving you this insane push out of your seat. Instead of gracefully floating out, you are yanked out of your seat. The next record I'm going to talk about is the inversion record. The ride that holds this record right now is a Smiler at Alton Towers, and that has 14 inversions. Now, the thing is, this record has not been broken in over 10 years. Now, the thing is, before the Smiler opened, a bunch of parks were going after the inversion record. But at the time, the record was 10. The Smiler opened with 14, shattering the record. Which you don't think 4 is a lot, well, try having a full layout with 10 inversions and then trying to fit in an extra 4 while keeping the train going a moderately fast pace and not having to worry about it valleying. Which valleying is basically when there's two massive elements back to back and the train does not gain enough speed and it doesn't make it up the next element. So it valleys in between the two. That's pretty bad, and it usually shuts down the ride because they have to dismantle the train and set it back up where it can continue the layout. But that usually only happens in the morning or in high winds. Now, the Smiler does 14 inversions in a super compact space, and it only has about 4,400 feet of track. Pretty wild. The next record I'm going to talk about is the fastest acceleration on a roller coaster. Now, this is an interesting one because the ride that holds the record, Dodonpa at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan, has a launch that goes from 0 to 112 miles per hour in 1.2 seconds. Now, people who went on this ride say that the experience is similar to being shot out a gun or having a semi truck ram into the back of you at 70 miles an hour. Now, the reason why this is an interesting record is because you have to have a really high top speed to be able to achieve this. And also, Dodo Dump already pulls 3.3 forward Gs. That is the most on any roller coaster. It is 3.3. And I believe the max forward G force a human body can withstand is 3.5. So I don't think this record is gonna be broken, but it can happen. And the final record I'm going to talk about, this is where I'm going to get more into G-forces because this record is the highest G-force on a roller coaster, which this record is held by a ride called Tower of Terror at Gold Reef City in South Africa. And the ride pulls over 6.3 vertical G-forces at the bottom of the first drop. If you want a comparison to what you normally feel on a roller coaster, Intimidator 305, the ride that most enthusiasts in America consider the most intense roller coaster experience, only pulls about 3.5 Gs. This is a Tower Terror almost doubles I-305's intensity. And the maximum vertical Gs that the human body can withstand is 7. 7 vertical Gs. You don't know why? Because if it was any more intense, you'd probably be flattened into a pancake. So, yeah, there's only a little bit more space that they can go with there before you're making a flattening device.
Now, I'm adding this in after editing, and you also have to find a manufacturer that's willing to build it.
So, now I get into my idea. Now, my idea for what parks should do moving forward is not worry about breaking records or having the tallest, fastest, or longest roller coaster in the world, and focus more on the actual ride itself. Make the ride stand out for the crowd by making a never before seen element or adding a never before seen concept to the ride. Make the ride longer and more of an overall enjoyable ride by adding theming. Now, you could probably get a little bit confused about this, and whenever I say longer, I mean make the duration longer, not longer as in track length. So that could be a little bit confusing. So welcome back, riders. How's that ride? So yeah, that's really all I have to say about this. And thanks for listening to me rant for almost 20 minutes. So yeah, peace out.